I'm Kevin Robertson. I'm the chairman of the Commercial Marine Group, and I'd like to welcome Eric Briar, who's going to present a background on the renewable sector. After 18 years at sea, reaching the pinnacle of master, Eric has spent nearly a decade in the oil and gas market, but since 27, he has been involved in the renewable sector, including wind, wave and tidal power, providing marine expertise, vessel build, charter and contract management on a number of innovative and challenging projects. In 2013, Eric and Toby Mead started Manor Renewable Energy Limited, developing engineering solutions for various clients whilst operating, chartering and owning wind farm service vessels, which they built at Manor Marine in Portland. Following the acquisition of Manor Marine in 2017, MRE expanded their site, investing heavily in staff and facilities, which I'll let Eric further detail in his presentations. And I'd just like to reiterate that this is being recorded for sharing with other society members who can't be here today. So I'd like to welcome Eric.
Thank you. Afternoon all, thanks for inviting me. I'll try not to go over too much stuff. I know there's a sort of mixed blend of people, and so apologies if I go over stuff that everyone's familiar with already, but I've tried not to do that. And I'll just give you a bit of a brief rundown of Manor Renewables and Manor Marine and what we're up to, and then a little bit on where we see the industry, the renewables industry, and sort of focused on the CTVs and slightly bigger vessels to finish up. And I'll rattle through it, and then if anyone wants to stop me and ask any questions, I'm happy, or if you want questions at the end, whatever you prefer, really, Kevin.
Yeah, I think a combination of the both would be good, but I'm sure the presentation will prompt people to take a few notes and ask questions at the end as well. Okay. But you're willing to interrupt Eric at any time, so you're welcome to interrupt Eric at any time.
Okay. I guess we're quite unique just on MRE. There's not many people. I think there's probably one other company in the UK that owns and operates and builds vessels similar size and style to what we do. And we started, as Kevin said, 2013, with a view to, I guess our first part of our remit was to own vessels, own generators, and run people for a temporary power solution. That sort of evolved into O&M services, and we just started a surveying position in business, and I'll run through the sort of rationale for that as we go on. Manor Marine started in 1990, and we built a vessel there 2016, and for a various range of reasons, we bought the company in 2017. We decided that we wanted to change it. It was a very old school shipyard and mainly focused on vessel construction, engineering services, not purely focused on renewables. We've taken it down a route where we're probably 80%, 75-80% focused on renewables now, and part of the business is also cable storage. We store the London Array spare cable for one of the sheds on carousels that we built.
Can we give people an example of what that is, that cable?
Yeah, so just from a wind farm perspective, it's an export cable because of the off tows. They have to hold a spare cable available as part of the sort of insurance strategy, I suppose. And we store the London Array export cable. We've got about 10 kilometres of export cable and about 2 kilometres of intra-array cable in the event of a situation where they would have to replace that. Hopefully it doesn't get used, but it's certainly there if they need it. So we're quite spread over Portland. That's our main base is Portland. So what you see there is our main old shed. We've got another shed that's not in shot that some people will know. It used to be the Intermarine shed, and before that it was the ROV shed for Global Marine. It's about 2,000 square metres. We've got about 9,500 square metres in total, something like that now, of shed and external space. And right in the top right of the picture there are 2 slipways and slipway shed, and it's it's pretty well placed along the south coast there, and we two launch facilities, one both in shot there. One's a hydraulic lift for 80-ton vessels. The other one's a 40-metre platform. Biggest boat we've put on it is actually 38 metres, but and about 600 tonnes, but it can take around about 900 tonnes, something like that. We don't just build vessels, we stretch them and do conversions and repair work, dry dock refits, bigger ship stuff. We work in port and port, and we send teams to various other ports. Slipway maintenance for all sorts of different vessels, barges, our own vessels, and we provide mainly fabricators, welding, fitters, engineers, painters, and we do it all in-house with same as sawmill. We make our own furniture and stuff for the boat builds as well. Just some of the vessels we've built. We over the years, Fagio 2 was a vessel for Kenya. Oil spill response vessel. Manor was one of ours. Oil supply. We've built a few different types of those sort of multi-cat style vessels. London Titan was the very low vessel on the left for getting under the bridges on Thames. She's for the Port of London Authority. And then we built a series of about 13 or 14 of those little narrow beam pusher tugs for the inland waterways, and we built the barges that went with them. So all sorts of different vessels over the years. And as a group, the idea and our sort of ethos is that one feeds the other. So Manor Marine does the work for MRE, MRE provides work for MM, and likewise back the other way. It's quite a good crossover. So as a group, it's just to sort of feel for the areas we are. We're not all things to all men. That's sort of spread across what we do. And just a bit about the roadmap. As I say, 2013 we started. We're about 50-person headcount then, and we're up to about 78 people in Manor Marine now, and about 110 people in Manor Renewables. We probably hit about 30 million turnover this year, if it all goes well, and we don't have something like a pandemic getting in the way. But it's all looking good for this year. It was our best year ever. That's our 5 vessels, 2 on the right, Initiative and Enterprise in the right-hand corner, the 2 we stretched. And I guess I'll come on to that in a little while, really, why we did that and what we see as part of an industry where there's a lot of opportunities for that, with not just those 17-metre boats that we stretch, but as boats get bigger and taking them into the newer renewable market, I guess, and the sites that are further offshore. Various designers we've used: James Walker Marine, we'll talk about him in a minute, Chartwell. We've used a few others along the way. The Manor Brunel is one we bought in just to start the survey business that we needed, which I think it's the next one. Just a bit about the team. We're a bunch of mariners and engineers. We're not financiers and accountants. We're hands-on, get stuck in, and from a broad range of the shipping industry, really. So a lot of experience. Toby there was master of the first ever wind farm installation vessel, the Resolution, back in 2003, and Leif Cooper built wind farms, so he was construction manager on a couple of the sites, including Rampion down on the south coast there. Alex Richards, loads of surveys and renewables, and so yeah, good bunch of people. Just some of our main clients as we've sort of grown, we've spread the risk a bit and got a lot of different clients, mainly blue chip, fortunately, so we haven't had any disasters. Which sort of leads us on to surveying and positioning, where it's a new business to us, and the reason we started it was we're in an industry where we don't do a lot in the startup stage of projects of renewables, so we needed something that helped us get into that. So we brought a team in and vessels and equipment. We've invested in quite a lot of equipment now to develop that, and it's just sort of kicking off. And if we look at the next slide,
just on the kit that you got on board that survey vessel, and where did you get that from? Where do you look for?
Yeah, so Teledyne, people like that. You know, our survey team sourced it, and we purchased it.
They knew what they wanted.
But it's yeah, people like you know, across the board, the general survey people that
just press the P button on there, Alan. No, on your keyboard. Press the P one. Right. So looking down that list, how much of that would be acquired from British suppliers?
A lot of it, you know, the majority of what we've done is, you know, we get what we can from UK suppliers, and I would say from the struggle we're having at the moment is trying to find surveyors that are British. It's the people that are the problem. So, but we're working on that as much as we can. From a point of view of the equipment we've got on board, the new vessel and another vessel that we've chartered in, I'd say probably 80% of the kit is.
Is that because you want to buy British, or because British is the best? You can be honest. So
I've got to be careful with McLean on here from Consberg, haven't I? But we obviously we know on the UK projects we've got, we always shout about the UK content we've got. You know, we shout that we build our boats in the UK, and we shout that we've got JCB generators, you know, on the generator side of what we do. So yeah, I mean, it's we're in a position where we've got to support the industry now, haven't we? You know, it's a difficult enough game without trying to support locally. And I talk about that a bit more when we come on to the sites around Europe. You know, it's difficult to say that we can only use local content, and then we go off to Germany or somewhere like that and say, you know, you've got to use us. You know, we want to be able to have the spread of projects across Europe.
Yeah. Can you get all the skilled labour that you need nowadays?
No, I was talking earlier about the crew. You know, we always started as we would have British crew, and this year's the first year that we've had to start using foreign crew because we just can't get the skills. And whether it's gone off to do other things or they're still taking the furlough money, we're not sure. You know, but there's certainly a shortage in people who can drive that sort of boat with the skills that, or the level that we're asking for, is quite challenging. You know, we don't need 500-ton tickets for those boats, but we always want it. So we're up against other people who don't necessarily do that.
At the beginning, where were you getting those people from? Were they coming from another industry or?
A little bit of that, yeah. I mean, we had a few good people come across from the fishing industry. And I think some of them have gone back, you know, for various reasons. There seemed to be more about in the industry then, and maybe there was less boats actually working. So it's quite a challenge.
Are the colleges engaged?
Yeah, well, we do 5 apprentices a year, and they're great. The colleges work well for us on the boat building side.
Yeah.
But on the
Operator side?
For vessel operation side, it's difficult. You know, there's not a really easy way to get. We've not had a lot of success with that either. So I would say the MCA aren't engaged in that very much. My view. Maybe Charles, maybe you've got a view on that from a Lloyd's point of view. Or?
No, it's one of those interesting ones we're talking about coming from fishing industry, and that's always been I'm not saying forgotten market in regulatory side. I think the MCA themselves as well, in terms of tickets, have been jutting in and out of whether they get more involved or not. But certainly on the offshore renewable side as well, we are seeing a lot of accidents there as well. And yeah, there's been a few discussions this week as well in terms of how does that accident rate come from? What's the competencies there?
Yeah. Maybe partly we took some guys from the oil and gas industry, and maybe that's now, maybe there's less of those about as the oil and gas is picking up a little bit. I'm not sure. But just going on to the renewables industry, I mean, we use this. This was from Renewables UK, Renewable UK, the trade body that we're members of, and they, we're at what, 13 gigs, something like that now in the UK. Probably got to be at 20 plus by the end of 2026. When you look at Europe, next one there. Look at Europe, you're looking at, we're probably at 21 by the end of this year, 2021 across Europe. And then we've got another 40 gig to get in the ground by 2026. So it's quite a big chunk of delivery, construction. Scotland, big ambitious plans. And I think they need to happen, Scottish projects, to achieve those numbers there. We've seen 2 relatively slow years of construction now, and we're going into 3 really busy years of construction.
What's going to be the limiting factor on construction now, do you think? Supply chain of the turbines. I think every project that we're working on now, Siemens are flat out to do it. Vestas, MHI Vestas are flat out to accommodate the need. So some of it is pushing projects back. I think some of them took a bit of a breath when some projects were delayed last year, and it's been quite good for them. But they're just building new facilities, new blade facilities outside of Europe now, plus ones that they've built outside of Europe. So I think that's got to catch up. When you look at the rest of the world there, you've got another 40 plus gig of turbines between now and 26. Someone's got to make and manufacture. And it's maybe getting easier because the turbines are getting bigger. And I think I've got a slide that shows that. Just before I go on to that, this is quite an interesting one. This is from the Global Wind Organisation, Global Wind Energy Council. And while we're talking about training, their estimate to get the offshore part of it, to get to the numbers, they see there's 172,000 people to be trained globally. We reckon that's way short to get to those numbers that they're saying, because I think that's just for offshore people. You've then got all the onshore staff and the manufacturing for the vessels and equipment goes with it. So there's a shed load more than that. You look at it in real terms. And that sort of leads us on to new stuff, floating wind. This is in Portugal, and the biggest floating wind farm at the moment is 5 turbines, but it's a bit of a step change and a bit of a sort of feels, we're involved in Kincardine in Scotland, and it feels like a backward step really to go forward. We're struggling to get a bit of traction in that industry, but it's got to be a big way forward. And then there's massive changes in control systems and all the differences between that, the mooring systems and different vessels involved to take them offshore. So we see floating wind as a massive opportunity.
But the main advantage of it is clearly you can go into deeper water.
Yeah.
But is that it? Is there any? Is it cheaper?
Well,
construction and
probably for me the biggest thing is you're doing more onshore, so you're not trying to go offshore and putting the sails up. You tow it out like that. So
yeah.
you're not. So your offshore commissioning, which is probably the most expensive, or the offshore construction part of it is the most expensive bit, and this brings that down a lot.
Yeah.
But
There will be a need for anchor handlers to take these things out,
yeah,
and place them in position.
Yeah.
And presumably most of it is Dyneema and chain. It won't be only chain, will it?
No, it'll be all tension legs and
Yeah.
old technology really. It's nothing really that new in there.
No, but it's a massive manufacturing need for Dyneema.
Yeah. Or whatever systems they
Yeah.
use. And then you've got all the cable protection systems. We've got to move on and changes to that. So I think it's a really interesting and exciting development.
How deep would they be anchored at? What sort of depth of water would they have a typical?
I can't remember what the high wind one is, but I think it's about 100 meters. I don't know if anyone else knows. I think it's 100 meters plus. It's all about.
So that's a nice nest of cables hanging down below the water for submarines to run into.
You're right. You've been watching too much Vigil.
It's good though, isn't it?
What about servicing that turbine once it's in situ? Because you wouldn't bring it back, I guess.
No, pretty much the same. So
Right.
you do the same as you do with a fixed foundation. Just boats push on it the same.
Right.
Yeah, we've been out there taking generators off and putting generators on and just pushing up on them.
I suppose maybe it's in some ways it's easy because you're always going to be approaching from wherever the weather is or the tide is coming from, which you don't get to do on a fixed tower.
You could do if they put different access points, but to keep it cheap on the one we're on, they put it on one point.
Right.
So only one of the legs has an access
The
point.
one we were on, yeah.
Okay, so you've got the same problems of access as you do with a fixed tower. Really.
Yeah, but they should do that. They would put that. It's sort of looking at the developments, you know, the Hornsey 2 now where they've taken the ladders off and they've got no ladders. You think that'd be great, so you can access at any point, but you've only got one access point still where you can push on really. And I don't think it's a way forward taking ladders off and having this get you up system, but they've tried it.
Do you think it's as safe or more or less safe than a fixed tower? Because do the boats move up and down with the sea and the tower?
No, the tower doesn't move.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's like a spar buoy.
Oh, okay.
Solid. So,
Right.
Well ballasted.
yeah.
And with the vessels, Eric, I mean, people are kind of talking around, potentially there's the opportunity to do things differently with floating wind in terms of fixed wind was very much kind of using what we had for oil and gas and I mean, in terms of spot charter and installation and things. Could you see kind of different potential operating models or in terms of floating wind, or do you think it will go down the same kind of?
I think you'll still have SOVs. I think, we'll talk about other vessels in a minute, but I think there'll still be all that to service a bigger wind farm that's further offshore and they're not necessarily further offshore, are they? They could be in deep water positions that are close inshore. So that saves money as well. I think there's got to be different vessels, it'll be the same as these ones that they put in Portugal and Scotland that don't use jackups, do they? So
Yeah, and as I said, I know people have kind of said instead of spot charging, could you have a vessel and a handler or something that then stays on for the life of the project or is shared around other farms or other kind of models? I just wondered.
been talked about for a long time, and the whole model of having a jackup available to service 3 different wind farms, but no one could agree because whenever he wanted it, I want it in the summer, you want it in the winter, you have it in the winter, doesn't work out too well, does it? But so I don't know. I think that's starting in some areas. We've been on some CTV jobs where we're doing 2 or 3 sites and you flip them around. So one campaign you're doing it with that boat, and then the bigger boat goes back there and does that in the winter, and so that can work quite well. We've not seen it very much with the jackups. I think there was a jackup doing multiple blade repairs for different sites where it was going around just doing various projects, but we haven't seen much of it. I think it's an ideal, if you had lots of them in a close cluster with different developers, why not? Hard to get the charter party right on that. So,
Have you any interest in building the actual piles themselves? Is that
there's not many places in the UK you could do it, for the size that I don't think I've got.
Belfast? Well, Anish and Methil was other than
Yeah,
more. But the scale of them is too much for your.
For us, yeah, it's too big. But the secondary steel work, all the, we've done it before. We've done all the ladders and bumper bars and all that sort of thing. And we've done reparatory works for all the gates and latchway systems, the fall arrest systems. All that. So there's lots of other opportunities for manufacturers to be involved in that. Not working. Frozen. Oh, there we go. Just again, I'm probably telling you stuff you already know here, but 15 years ago, 2006, 2007, London Array ordered 175 3.6 machines that were 144 metre diameter, same as the London Eye. Now the ones for next year on Saint Nazaire are 107 metre blade diameter Palliadex, and when they're installed, the top of the tip to the water level is the same as the Shard, more or less, so 248 metres, something like that. So it's a big change in scale when you look at it. It's big bits of kit we're dealing with.
They have a longer lifespan, the bigger turbines, or not necessarily.
I don't think they do really. You know, I think that probably the tip speed is more, probably gets more erosion.
Right.
You know, I think it's probably not. I mean, those GE ones are direct drive. I don't know if there's probably maybe more longevity in that. I'm not sure, but I think a lot of them are direct drive now.
Just removing a transmission from the system, is it?
I guess so, yeah. I'm not right. I'm only a closet engineer, Elliot.
Right.
No comment. The just a bit on what we've done over. I guess I won't sort of bore you with all of those, but things we've been looking at. You know, trying to more access time at the towers. You know, so you can have vessels that can cope with bigger sea state. Access systems have got better. The Ampleman's got better now. You know, there's good access systems. The cable installation processes seem to be better now. We've seen a lot of improvements. It's still a troublesome part of the construction. We talked about facilities. I think there's got to be a lot more facilities to cope with the growth.
Sorry, just on that cable installation, is that literally feeding it up getting it inside the turbine? Is that the
part of it? Yeah. It's not got a big 3-pin plug on it though.
Yeah, that's
USB 5. Yeah. No, it's obviously for Hornsey 2, we're on there. There's I think 17 or 18 cables going into 2 substations, 100 miles offshore. So they've all got to be commissioned and put in to get the power back to shore and so you can pump power back to the turbines as well when they need it.
Yeah.
So comms.
We could just go, I mean, this is a stupid question, really. Going back to your previous slide with the size of these turbines, when a service engineer is put onto one from a transfer vessel, how does he get to the top? Is it a ladder?
No, lifts, yeah.
A lift, is it? Oh, okay.
The old ones did. I'm not sure if London Array, I think London Array had lifts. I think the Gunfleet Sands didn't. I think they were big old turbines. I don't think they had lifts on it. So,
I'll apply for that job.
I guess the last couple on there, though, I mean, the onshore construction talked about, you know, I think there's got to be a hell of a lot more for that, and there's good places you could do that, I'm sure, around the coast that aren't being, or around the UK that aren't being focused on or supported by the government, maybe focused on training. You know, it doesn't need to be just standard courses to get you over the line, the GWO courses. It needs to be, you know, proper long-term training regimes and apprenticeships, and that's got to be supported by the government, trade bodies, developers. Can't just be cheapest wins all the time that we see a lot with developers and OEMs.
Well, it's nice to see Holland and Wolf winning that some business.
Yeah.
Arnish and Methil seem to be revitalised those two different yards, facilities.
Yeah. Just sort of development, just coming on to wind farm service vessels and crew vessels. To talk about the hybrid side of it and a little bit or various changes that we've come across. Back in 2008, I think it was 7, I went over to South Boats and they were building 12 and 14 metre boats for wind farms that could do 18 knots. And now that those top ones are 17 metres, I think it's 2012 or something like that. And then you go on to sort of 26 metres. But the real change, I suppose, in the bottom one is the MHO ones, which are 35 metres with a funny on the bottom right-hand corner there with a funny sort of crane with a shopping basket on it for getting people up the tower. not sure I fancy that too much, but and speeds started off, as I say, 15, 20 knots. Then it became all the charters 4 years ago. You had to do 25 knots, 24, 25 knots. Now they're asking 30, 35, 40 knots. So it's an evolving thing, and you get new markets in Asia where there's shortfall. Where we're in Taiwan now, we can't get vessels. We're struggling to get a vessel out there at the moment that can do what we need to comply with the client's contract, even though he's out there and he knows that those vessels aren't there. He's asked us to supply that vessel. So there is a bit of a chicken and egg situation there on.
And that is
on
going to be a
vessels.
lot larger, faster Taiwan.
Well, I don't know whether it be, they're not that far offshore, so I don't know why you'd want to go that far.
No, but if that's what his charter has, then
Yeah.
that's right.
So the older vessels redeployed somewhere else? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they put some of the old Twin Axe vessels out in Taiwan, but then they had trouble with some of the other European vessels when they put them out there. They couldn't get them over the line to meet the Taiwanese flag requirements, and they all had to be classed, and obviously that restricted us a bit on some things.
Where are they falling down then? Or
There's things like pipework and engine room,
okay,
not being of the correct type, and
Okay.
general stuff you get when you change flag, I suppose.
okay.
So it's not only that, it's the demand on the CTVs. You know, we're the Venture and the Endurance R2 have been out on Hornsey 2, 100 miles off, staying out there for 4 or 5 days at a time. We're lucky that we don't have to run in and out all the time. But they got fob swaths, the one on the bottom right hand corner there, that are doing 35 knots, steaming out there, getting people out there for 6 hours and then steaming them back in again. You know, sure that's not the way forward. So then it brings in SOVs, surface effect vessels, the new one that Seawind took off of White Shipyard.
Yeah.
White Shipyard own it, and they operate it. That's, I think that did 40 knots, isn't it, on trial, something like that. So there's a big change in obviously efficiencies and greener ways to do it. But we're getting asked to carry more people, more equipment, more fuel. So it's hard to do all that and then still want all that and then still 25 knots. You know, speed and catamarans, if doesn't put a load of weight on it, doesn't always work, does it?
So in your conversation, or you might be covering the same, but in your conversation with the actual wind farm owner, if you like,
Yeah.
do they want you? Are they pushing you to have more and more green, and yet at the same time want you to be
Yeah, they don't want to pay
bigger
anymore.
and faster?
Yeah, they don't want to change the rate. It's always the cheapest rate wins.
Yeah.
Well, I would say 90% of the time it's cheapest rate wins. Yeah. So every bit of capex you spend, you're not going to get any more than the bloke that does it. Generally,
Yeah.
from the cheaper boat. So just to give an example, I mean, I think this one on the left was the old South Boat design that Chartwell developed, and then the one on the right is their latest one, the HST Ella, which I'm not sure if she's got the 180 kilowatt battery in, but the 300 kilowatt battery with about 60 ton displacement gives you about 12 knots for 40 minutes on battery power and about 6 knots for 4 hours. So very good for us, to be honest with you. You can see a lot more on Chartwell's website, but nice for us if we're in the field and poodling about at 6 or 7 hours through the night when we're not operating much. Great. Not great if you want to just use battery power and say your zero emissions is where we're not at the moment. I don't think with this.
What would you see the next step? Is there like a quantum change coming, or there we go?
Well, I think everyone around the table is probably certainly from the jets and also you're all looking at everything. The ISPS guys have all come up with solutions that are linked into hydrogen options, ammonia. We did look at a brown hydrogen system, a bolt onto the engines, but then you lose your warranty for the engine. And it wasn't that beneficial really. It was a bit of lip service as far as we were concerned.
Yeah,
So,
it's not. It's not green.
not a solution, you know. But yeah, there's lots of options out there being developed. There's a lot of money being thrown at it. But as I say, the developers and the people who want you to have it have got to put their hand in their pocket, really.
So you're an operator as well. Are you looking to get hybridize your next boat, or are you not quite convinced? Or
Yeah. We went for we put the big battery packs on the two little ones that were extended, and so when we're in port, we don't run the generators at all in port, so we stop the sort of alongside emissions.
so that's just for house
Domestics,
loads.
yeah, and the same on the endurance. We just run on batteries. There we got, I can't remember, 40 kilowatt hours, 45 kilowatt hours, so not massive, but you know, we see you've got to go 300, 400, 500. But again, the problem is, from a designer's point of view, you put 2 ton of batteries on, you lose speed, so you've got to put more power into it. So it's trying to get that balance right and how much you put in.
I was going to say, I mean, one of the obviously the big challenges is the operating profile in terms of as soon as you move to batteries or hybrid. Obviously, if the requirements are kind of 40 knots and lots of weight, like you say, then suddenly, do you see a potential, any change in that operating profile? Obviously, it needs to come from the requirements from the developers in terms of what they put out to tender. But
I think so. I think if you look now, you look at the SOVs that are out there, with some of them have only got 20 or 30 people on. You know, ex-oil and gas boats, they're not really SOVs, they're ex-DP2 boats. We've got one on charter now, and we've got 20 people plus crew on it, 25 people plus crew, something like that. So it's a bit of a waste, you know, it's not ideal. I think probably that bit between the 24 metre, when you go up to 80 metres, is a big jump. You know, I think somewhere in the middle, the 40 metre boat is probably not that one. Sort of that. The 26 metre one is ours on the right now. 40 metre one is one we've been through with Walk and Ring to come up with, where it's still got a door to craft. You could, on the bigger towers with the right fender, put it onto the tower, so you haven't got to just put an Amperman over all the time. So you could probably get round. Our best ever night was 12 turbines in a night. We still do 10 with the little ones if we really need to get some fuel in, sort of dash it in quickly, get around to the next one, so that if you've got a blow coming, you fill the generators up. The one on the left, you probably still get 8 or 10, whereas we're getting around half a dozen with an SOV at night now. By the time you set up on DP and go to the next one, so get the Amperman over. So yeah, that's, you know, various options. I think you are going to see that, and there's more and more designs for this sort of thing coming out. Yeah, and I think there'll be more and more of this, where you cut the back off and put a different propulsion system. The reason we did this originally with these two, we bought them for a potential client that wanted the old engine rooms to be hydrogen storage, and so he was looking a bit further forward, and then the new engine rooms would be on the back end. The fact that he ran out of money was when we decided we had to keep them ourselves. So, which it's all right, you know. It's cheap. Going back to the capex, they give us 2 relatively cheap boats compared to doing 2 new builds, and we've got 2 boats that are fully refitted, new electrics, new engines, new propulsion system. Cut those old jets off and with those.
And with the larger vessels, obviously one of the things kind of stopping you, or the challenges to overcome to push up, is the impact loads and obviously the interface.
Yeah.
That could be potentially designed for, couldn't it, in terms of, and when I suppose when we look at kind of newer installations and floating wind and stuff, do you think there will be more of a design with the end vessels in mind? Because at the moment they're kind of very separate, aren't they, in terms of the landing tubes are designed, and then, okay, we'll look at a vessel to push up against it later. But if they're designed with a 40 metre, 45 metre, whatever vessel in mind, then you could design that interface into. I mean, could you see that
What do you think? Will?
Standardisation, and I don't. You can't even now. You go to one wind farm, and our fender doesn't fit. You know, we're fortunate. We've designed a system with buoyant works that we can change the fenders about to suit the different farms. You know, but if your landings are all different, and then you've got the client that says we want a 60 centimetre gap. You've got another client that says we want a 30 centimetre gap between the ladder and the fender and the step over point. You're struggling every time. You know, if you had just a standard, that's what it needs to be for the industry, and yeah, build it big enough to take X amount of force instead of Y. Then surely that would be the easy way, wouldn't it? But then it's up to you guys and Rambo and all that to sit together on that, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah.
How much of an issue is impact loads?
I think it's probably quite a lot engineered into it, isn't there? There's probably quite a lot of overcapacity on them.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that's one thing that, I mean, we've had discussions with some of the developers of, well, and if, because at the moment, like you say, it's just done, let's make it as strong as possible. Whereas you could actually get some more efficiency and cost saving in there if you know and really understand the interface and the loads that you're talking about. But then you need to understand the vessel, and
Yeah.
that's where at the moment that handshake isn't happening really, as far as.
And you need to go back to a client and say, give us a contract for 10 years and we'll build you the boat and everything you want that fits. But they don't. They build it and give you a 1 year contract, which not all the time. That's unfair, really.
I mean, coming for the operators as well, that kind of I've spoken to, especially operating in more challenging conditions, I think if you've got that confidence that you can push up, and if it is a bit more of a force than you'd expect, but it'd be okay, you're not going to damage either the turbine, because obviously if you damage either, there's massive implications of downtime, isn't there? So I think giving the operators the confidence, especially in more challenging conditions, is a big thing as well. And speaking to, I mean, a few masters, they're kind of, it's one of the things that they like, you know what I mean, to be able to have that headroom, you know what I mean, so especially in weather.
So we've heard from operators about the number of warnings they're getting from their client about impacts. And we know that the jet boats allow you to have much lighter impact, because you can react quicker. But not really, I haven't really heard of people choosing a vessel just on that basis, or it becoming a real, it's not stopping people from using propellers, certainly, but it could be stopping them from going bigger.
Yeah. I think we have heard quite a lot about people who do just want CPP because it gives you more grunt and gives you more push on power. But I don't think it is the be all and end all, because like you say, it's maneuverability, and it's, you know, it's a combination of all of it, isn't it? And
there's trade-offs, isn't there, with all of it, I suppose.
What's the sort of length of time you need that push on power?
For us, it could be hours, but a lot of people, it's just a quick turnaround. Yeah. So hence the, you know, why we spent a bit of time on the fendering to try and get it so you get more stick, some more surface area. But it's I think it's about how many times you climb up and down the tower as well. You know, surely the less people are climbing, and you know, talk about things that people can manufacture in this country. I go back to, I can't think of the project now. Was it Gabbard, where it had 104 foundations and half of them were built in China? Oh no, it was Galloper. Half of them were built in China, and they all failed the weld test when they come over it. Surely, you know, that surely tells us there's got to be a change in the way the developers should be maybe told the way they've got to build a little bit, or where they've got to deal with some stuff. It's all down to cost. It cost them a lot more in the long run, though. We ain't got Chinese delegates on here. And this just sort of finish up really on larger vessels, and the one on the left is the Rising Star. We got that on charter, and we got the Norman Fortress on from next week and the week after. And then you got the the middle one is the SOVs, which I think there's always going to be a place for them, hotel vessels with boats going to the hotel vessel, the SOV, and moving people around, daughter crafts, that sort of thing. But at the bottom left-hand corner is a jack-up that is only 10 years ago, 11 years ago, that, well, not even that, less than 10 years ago, we were still using jack-ups like that, being towed out to site to do turbine installs. Standards I've used in the middle there still being used, 2,500 ton crane. And then the bottom one on the right are the new huge, now they're 180 metres, something like that, the jack-up vessels for specifically for turbine installation, for bigger turbines. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting industry. I obviously switched over from oil and gas and haven't really looked back, but certainly still quite a lot of challenges in what seems still a young industry with lots of opportunities for the marine sector.
And the market size, as the gigawatt capacity goes up, does each, was there a rough, if you have 20 turbines, you need a vessel, is that some figure out that I had once?
Yeah, it depends, how many
gigawatts.
Yeah.
More.
No, because if you did that, then where you've got 12 megawatt machine, or you've got 4 3 megawatt machines, you've got a lot more to service with the 4 3 megawatt machines. So from our point of view, we work on from our part of the business now for generators. So if we're doing that, we've got X many generators equals 12 hours of boat time and this many people. I guess it's the same with the construction and the O&M.
The install base just keeps growing. You've got to service all the install. I mean, new ones going in. It seems brilliant market to get involved in. So good choice.
And then you'll have decommissioning in 10 years. Well, there's a few been taken out already, haven't there?
Changing blades over. Yeah.
I mean, blade erosion is a massive issue. There's going to be a lot of work on that. I think it's a good industry for the UK, really.
What's the sort of life of these blades?
Well, I think they started off as 25 years and they've been, Hornsey 1 is 2 years old and they're doing blade edge erosion repairs. So they've got a few problems.
Yeah. Like recycling opportunities and stuff like that, I suppose.
London Array, after 7 years, they changed. They took one blade down at a time, and it was MPI did all the resurfaced all the edges of the blade, put that one back, put a new one up, next one down, and just like a rotating system did. I think 160 blades or something like that.
So you got the little daughter craft on the 40 metre.
Yeah.
How big a part do you think daughter craft are likely to play? Because they must have quite a limited window of operation.
Yeah. I think they are. I think, what we've seen is the ones we saw, they were saying 1.2 significant, but it's quite a big wave in a little boat like that when you're 100 miles off. And I think it's, I don't know, I think there will be a call for that. There's quotes out this week and North Star Shipping.
Yeah.
Just bought some, haven't they?
Yeah.
Just ordered some. So
the Dutch pilots use, I mean, it's not the same, but they do use that sort of mode, don't they? They have some small pilot boats that they use to put people on, and as well as their big pilot boats. Yeah,
for years, up in the Humber and that, they used to use smaller boats on bigger boats, Humber pilots many years ago. But the difference is, I suppose, you can turn a ship and get a bit of lee, and with that, your
Humber was always
going up
in the water anyway, wasn't it, on the way?
It might not be that popular with technicians. They might prefer to step off a bigger boat.
They don't want to go on a vomit comet.
No.
On the European side, the reason I went back to this slide is you've only got really 4.5 countries of significance, but that other is potentially a massive.
That's true. Yeah, Poland's missing from there. Poland and all of the Baltic really is a massive market,
and all the Mediterranean.
Yeah, they're looking for permission in one of Spain now, or Italy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Corsica, Italy, the other island, Sardinia.
You're seeing interest from the States as well, building in the UK and avoiding Jones Act?
No, not really. You know, we are doing some stuff out of the States with the client, but very little. You know, just more or less a consultancy role. So they're obviously building Chartwell under license out there.
Yeah.
So there is some UK content out there. You involved in that one?
Yeah.
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 Where they build, is that for Dominion wind farm or something like that?
Not sure. Blount Boats built the first few, I think. Ocean Pioneer.
But it does look as though the US is going to go kick off now.
There were some discussions of maybe everything being based in the UK and sort of shipping it from UK out to and doing the installations from the UK to the States purely from Jones Act and actually development of on land.
They sort of did that with the 5 that Fred Olsen installed at Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Now Block Island, sorry. Yeah. But I don't know if you could do that when it doesn't make financial sense, surely, does it? If you've got 160 to put in.
About with your fleet then, I love that phrase, vessel upcycling. Will you be trying sort of new technologies on those yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, we have looked at that, and it's quite a cheap way of doing it. It's quite a good little system. But then you do come across things further down the line where clients say boat's got to be 10 years, no more than 10 years old, which causes you some other issues. But so there's a lifespan in that. Again, so what you want to do is build it for a client that says, I'll give you 5 years if you put that technology on it.
Then you get the vessel recycling as well, because isn't one of the CTVs that you can use as a border patrol vessel?
Yeah, the old the one that they built in AMC, the 2 they built, didn't they? The Hurricane, which Seawind had. That's being used as on the UK border force to catch people, save people, more like.
So have you seen any charts, and Eric, which link that sort of forecast demand to forecast number of vessels required?
No, I haven't. I don't. There is one out there. Like Renewable UK can give us it, and I think there's probably various studies into it, but
it's got to be significant, hasn't it? I mean, how much? So there's clearly a big demand for vessels required to install and construct the wind farms, but then they'll move on and work on the next wind farm. What's the sort of residual requirement for vessels to service and maintain?
Yeah, I think the O&M goes on all through the year, really. Now on the bigger farms, they haven't got, used to be in the early ones when you had 25, 30 turbines, they just do summer campaigns to do the majority of their O&M. Now they just all year round.
So there will be a significant ongoing requirement. Yeah,
additional vessels.
New vessels. Do you see anything changing in your competitiveness to build in the UK and manufacture CTVs here? Because it's seemed like it's quite hard.
Yeah.
But is that likely to change? It sounds like transport costs for bringing boats back to Europe have gone up. COVID, but
the 2 we're building now for main price, he's changed from building in strategic in Vietnam to build with us for various reasons, but one of them is the cost, the gap between the cost has shrunk quite considerably. So that's encouraging. I think the financial structure and how you finance it has got to change, to be really competitive for smaller yards. I don't think you can easily compete with someone who says, give me 10% and give me the rest when I've built the boat. That's always going to be difficult for us to go up against unless the government support it. Or
is there any government assistance at all
for that sort of thing? You could do UK export finance where you could buy stuff in and get some delay in it. good rates. But so yeah, we're always looking at other options, but I think the gap's getting better and better, and I think probably Diverse are feeling the same as well over there. Diverse Marine in the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, well, we've heard anecdotes of people looking at their options again.
Yeah,
to come back maybe.
yeah. We're in talks this week with another client who doesn't want to build out there this time, a European client. So.
I've probably just the same one. Hopefully not.
It might be actually. It might be. So yeah.
So understanding that challenge in finance is, I'd like a conversation for that, Eric, because I'm finding it difficult to get my head around it, but it'll be really. But I know that there are significant barriers there, and I just want it'd be good to understand.
Yeah.
Exactly what would help.
Yeah. Sure.
Because whilst we've got there's what came through with the shipbuilding strategy was that was clearly a big issue, but trying to get to the nub of exactly where the issue is it has been proven difficult, and do we need to work on the banks? Do we need to work on the guarantee schemes? So what is it that would really help?
Well, I guess what's the hold up with the guarantee scheme? I mean, we can roll a big vaccination scheme out quite quickly, can't we?
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get it through this spending review, but it's been painful. Yeah, I can't possibly comment, but it's just been trying to make the case in Bays, but I think they've done that. Yeah. So, but will it be exactly what we require? Will it solve? Probably. I don't know. I think there's a possibility, quite strong, that it won't entirely solve the issue, but it will help us at least to have something in place. We'll be able to work on it, and we'll be able to work out where the issue is. Yeah. But I might fire a couple of questions at you.
Gospel's not far to Portland.
Perfect.
Autonomous vessels, that's an area of interest.
Really interesting, yeah. I mean, I think it's we've got a few quotes out now for small stuff and bigger stuff, so up to about 24 meters. So quite interesting. I'm keen to understand where it goes and how it works, and sort of legislative point of view.
Okay.
But I think the survey work going on now on wind farms where boats are being launched. Autonomous work.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
What's the scale of the survey required before you go for wind farm development?
Well, it's not. It doesn't work that in what we've done in the previous 13 gig that it's going to be the same for the next 13 gig, because there's less turbines. But when you look forward and you look at the other stuff that's going on and wave and tidal stuff that's going on, there's a huge amount there required, and worldwide there's a big shortage for survey stuff.
Yeah. So you got how many hours or days, or does it take for?
Well, it's interesting. There's a tender come out for Poland for 2 years' work to survey the Baltic for suitable sites for wind farms, and it's something like 600 vessel days per year. So it's quite a good chunk of work.
Yeah.
How big a piece of equipment is that? Whatever it is, the survey equipment, is it a big ship or a survey boat? Or?
Yeah, some of them are. The little 20-meter one would do all the inshore stuff, and then it'd be like a 50-60 meter one for the offshore.
Because just the sort of mine countermeasures boats and those arrays are quite small. Really, they can be towed by quite a small boat. It's already, commercially available, that sort of technology.
Be interesting to have a look at that.
I think it's doable, isn't it? There's Dan Hook and his team, what they called
Ocean Infinity.
Ocean Infinity. They're getting these fleets of autonomous survey vessels that must be capable of some deepish water survey. I think there's 14 metre or 28 metre timed kind of
Yeah,
versions,
that's true.
which is doable.
Got it
Yes.
covered.
It's going to be in the water, but yeah, what I don't know how quickly, the demand is significant.
Helen, I was just wondering if there's any questions from people online or anyone online wants to ask a question. Don't feel that you can't join in.
Just a general one around the regulatory. We talked about emissions a little bit earlier on and hybridization, all that kind of good fun stuff. But what emissions are you complying with right now if you put a boat in the water for these contracts? Is it inland waterway regs or IMO marine or both?
Yeah, IMO, it's tier 3A, isn't it? Tier 3A for if the keel was laid after the 1st of January this year.
Yeah. So as from a standard perspective, you're not being asked for enhanced performance. More, it's almost jumping towards something more specialized like a hybrid. Whereas, of course, you can do more. You can do more for your current diesel as it stands today, but it's kind of leapfrogging that. It appears to be a lot of cases now.
No, there's been a lot of requests for sort of specialist fuels, biofuels. But again, if you go onto a wind farm and you've got a vessel that runs on chip oil, it's hard to get a contract where it's going to cover you for the next 3 years or whatever. You want to be able. So it's like hydrogen. If someone said build a hydrogen boat, great, but you'd want a contract for it where you can fill up with hydrogen. The technology's there, isn't it, to do it? So I think it's a good point. There are some people who are asking for it, but it's how you can deliver it when the boat's operational. That's what we struggle with as an operator more than a builder. Like a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I can see, and it's like standardization as well, isn't it? There's if everyone's different, then there's no economies of scale, and you're ending up with a very specialist piece of kit.
Yeah, and even when we looked at charging the batteries up, if you want to come into port and plug into shore power with half a dozen boats doing it all at the same time overnight, it puts a hell of a strain on the grid. And so then should you then look at, say, battery storage on shore at that site that is topped up when the boats aren't there, and then they plug into the batteries onshore to get charged up?
Well, Siemens looking at a connection where you can charge up whilst you're pushing on the turbines. So you're taking the power from the turbine. That's being investigated at the moment. But the interesting thing on Anthony's point for emissions, in the UK waters, the generators on the platforms and turbines are legislated by land-based rules. They're not, even though at the sea, they have to comply with land regulations. Whereas on continent, it's the opposite way around.
So yeah, just if we switch away from vessels, the generators in the UK, at one point, someone said we had to comply with MARPOL. The generators we were putting up on the tower, we said, great, they're under 138 kilowatts, so we don't have to do anything. They said, no, we still want you to comply, even though they're under that. And we said, okay, so we did. And then in Germany, the BHS had their own requirements where you had to be 3A. So we supply 3A emission compliant generators out there. So it's a bit of again, we're back to standardization. What works all across Europe, it should be a similar standard, shouldn't it?
Does the emissions for the land-based stuff's normally a few years ahead of? So you can buy what you need.
Yeah, all ours are 3A anyway. That's why we switched from Kraken's G. Wilson ones to them, because they were 2, I think.
mission 2.
Yeah.
Have you got a favourite for green technology? You know, from will batteries be able to do it all day long?
Hydrogen,
Hydrogen, probably.
probably ammonia. I don't know enough about it.
No, okay.
And is that, yeah, is that a preference to keep that as a liquid fuel? So you keep a good old internal combustion engine, but
Yeah, I
with a
think so.
synthetic fuel of some sort? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not, I don't know really, you know, I think if you had a different way of doing it, you know, what are you saying, with a sort of fuel cell or something, or what?
No, I mean, that's it. Sorry. I'm just realised we've been sat here without my camera on, actually. Is this working there? We barred from cameras. Oh, no, we're not barred. No, sorry. Yeah, we're working with exhaust after treatment for traditional internal combustion, but of course we appreciate these days we're moving towards liquid synthetic fuels. So hydrogen could be a really useful fuel, especially green hydrogen made from offshore wind. That's got a lot of legs, and then you can continue to have a pretty standard looking internal combustion engine with ultimately zero emissions well to wheel type setup. So that's good. But the hybrid, you know, there's a place for all these things generally. It's a question of putting the right thing in the right place, and you know, storage capacities and power densities and all this kind of good stuff. There's not a one size fits all.
Problem with the batteries as well is, but we've seen, you put a load of weight on, you know, as soon as you put weight on, it's like cars and lorries, and you know, me.
Yeah, it's that power density argument. When you're trying to go, you are still trying to go quite fast, even if it's only 20 knots. It's still want to be light to do that, don't you, if possible? So it's got to be down to that energy density.
Yeah,
a lot.
In a lot of those style vessels, you see a massive change in fuel consumption when you put 20 ton on them. You know, it's a big difference to get the same speed.
Yeah, it's talking to some operators, like crews, they have to carry a lot of diesel. You know, that the owner of their client tells them to bring the tanks, and the fuel tanks have got a lot bigger, which seems to go completely against being green. That sounds like a quick win to make your boat more efficient, and a ridiculous way to operate. So it's ironic, really, people are being asked to provide a hybrid boat one day, and another day they're being told to fill up the boats every day.
Really, really good example this year. Vattenfall said, fill your boat up and run it till it's down to a point where you need to press it up again. And the reason they did that was because we were sort of running at half full and just going in every night, topping up.
Yeah.
And they saw us doing that. And it was taking 20 minutes, half hour a night. So they worked it out that they would save 20 minutes or half an hour of our time every day. The fact that the guys were in anyway, usually doing it when they're in.
Yeah.
They didn't gain anything.
No.
And we lost speed and increased consumption.
Are they writing these charter parties in terms of their operations, or are they taking them from the oil and gas industry and sort of bringing it in without really taking the operational profile into account? Like the 10-year thing sounds as a Saudi Aramco to begin with, where they said all vessels have to be below 10 years without any real justice behind it.
All boats have to be over 20 metres. So a lot of 19-metre boats are better than 21 metre boats, aren't they? No, I think the charter parties, you get people in offshore wind who've come from onshore wind, and you talk to them about a charter party and they go, this is no good, it's all in the vessel owner's favour. And so they want to change it all so it's all in their favour, and it doesn't happen, you know. So it's so they do try and change it, but you've got a background of people who maybe haven't got the experience of charter parties and things. Often, not once.
But there might be some scope for optimization just of the duty cycle. I know when we've spoken to some ferry operators about their performance and their operation, if you delve into it, you don't need to delve too far to find they haven't really looked at it. So if there's this drive to, you know, turn every stone over, perhaps there's with all the data capture that's available now, you know, maybe there's some work to do with that.
Yeah.
You know, and fuel tank payloads would be part of that, wouldn't they? And most efficient route and all sorts of things.
Yeah,
to do some of that.
yeah, they do some of that, you know, and we work with them on that to do, you know, best route. And if you're going to 10 turbines in a night or whatever, you know, just be one over there, one there, then back to them. So it's got a bit better.
Well, in terms of the tender, the problem is once in terms of the vessel spec, once it's in a tender, then that's it, isn't it? Because anyone who wants to win the tender in terms of the delivery contract will design and build to that. So once it, so that, I mean, I think need to kind of go back, like you say, with maybe some of that data and look at, but it's down to the developers, because I say once it's written into a tender, then that's it. It's going to be design and build because people want to win the contract. But I suppose it's the kind of impact of those.
But what would be good if the builders got together and sat around the table and could build with developers these wind farms. And I guess a lot of the stuff now, like Dogger Bank, and that there's not going to be many. They're going to be big wind farm vessels. You know, it's going to be mainly SOVs now. But if you could sit down and say, what do you want exactly on there, and you could give them a real Gucci feel to it, you know, they'd be probably quite happy as long as they didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
But again, you could make it cheap then if you were doing it at the early stages and not trying to retrofit it.
You showed some innovative vessels, and I guess people are looking at, well, ways to market their vessels, but also and their companies, but also, you know, pursuing greener options. Do you think, because the CTVs are quite well optimized now and they're quite fit for purpose, really? Do you think there's much more mileage in the next generation of innovative platforms, or not?
I don't know, really. I don't know. I think I'd like to think so, wouldn't you? You know, I think it's always getting. But I suppose there's only so far you can go with it. Like you say, there's got to be a limit on what you can do.
Diminishing returns, I don't know.
Yeah.
Look at automotive. That's continuing to innovate, isn't it? So why wouldn't the marine industry? We're just a bit slower. No, just a lot slower.
Lots of upcycling, I think, would be my phrase of the day. Thank you.
Quite expensive to make aluminium, isn't it? Quite not very good for the environment. Because they try and keep it in use for a bit longer.
Yeah.
Recycle it as well.
Okay. Quite a few companies in the UK are processing Coke cans. It'll become ships one day. Brilliant.
Beer cans.
We'll do our bit.
On that note, any more questions from the dial-in group? Sounds like a no.
hanging in there, haven't I? So thank you. Go on.
No.
Also, a huge thank you to Eric for your time today and input there. It's brilliant to hear from sort of both sides of the fence there from what you do. So it's been really interesting, and I'd say a huge thank you to Kevin as well for actually sort of, well, meeting and come up with the idea as well. So you know, it's brilliant. So, and thanks to Helen for actually arranging this. The SMI's technical snafus are continuing this week. It's been the curse of almost every meeting I've been in, actually. So it's obviously my fault. So
I thought you were very relaxed about it.
Tuesday was fine for me. You weren't there. You might be right. Could be worse. It could be John Murray.
No. Brilliant. Okay, folks. Thank you very much. We'll end the online excursion and look forward to meeting you all soon, because we are, you know, getting back to we were at DSCI yesterday. Thousands of people there. People can get out and about again, which is great. So look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.